But yeah, I'm a figurative painter. My work is pretty large scale. So when I say figurative, I mean like people. I paint people. And their bodies are generally like life size or larger. I am afraid of this like disembodied super ego we're creating. We're like taking all of our like parts that are the least integrated about us and building a machine that is only that.
Only those things, yes.
But maybe it needs us. Maybe we are woven together in ways that are like actually very symbiotic and beautiful that we don't understand yet.
I'd like to begin with a fact. So deep.
Hello and welcome into the show. My name is Nathaniel August Williams. This is Deep Noodle. If you're a loyal follower, you may have noticed that we took a little break. No real reason. Just, sometimes you got to take a break. That's probably going to happen from time to time. Thank you for listening to this episode and sticking with us. There will be more episodes to come, and we'll get back on the train. And the crew here is all working very hard. We're booking guests. So there will be more Deep Noodle. So thanks for sticking around. And thanks for tuning into the show because I'm very excited. I have a wonderful, wonderful guest. My guest today is an internationally recognized artist and painter who has presented solo exhibitions at the PPOW Gallery in New York, as well as galleries around the world, including Moran in Mexico City, Periton in Tokyo, and various small fires here in Los Angeles, to name just a few. Their work is in the permanent collections of the Brooklyn Museum, Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, the Columbus Museum of Art, the Institute of Contemporary Art in Miami, and X Museum in Beijing. Very cool. Robin F. Williams, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And then, of course, the disclaimer in these situations, I have to mention that we are related.
Yes.
You are my sister.
Yes.
And
that's true.
Yeah. But, the hardball questions will still, I'll still be hitting you with all the hard stuff.
Amazing.
But thanks for coming. So you're based in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. For those out there that don't know you, but you're spending some time in LA. How's your LA experience been going?
Oh man, it's so nice. I mean, this is the longest amount of time I've spent here. Mm-hmm. And the most kind of like independently directed time. I'm exploring a bicoastal lifestyle potentially.
The dream.
Yes.
The dream.
It's a little harder. The equation for painters or like artists that do like a material thing, I haven't really figured out how to make it work or if it's possible.
The bicoastal equation?
I think it really suits like writers really well, or performers, or people that can kind of like pick up and move the art that they're doing without too much like physical stuff.
Yes, you need a studio and a lot of materials and things.
So like maintaining two studios or having kind of temporary studios is a little bit of like a puzzle, but seeing if it's possible, or else, just figuring out if I can take some downtime and do it in LA and, what proportion of time I could spend over here.
Yeah, it feels like a dream that maybe only existed like in the 80s or something. That like I just don't know anyone who can like really afford to be bicoastal. It seems like
might be a fantasy, but I'm exploring it.
But you're doing like a house swap right now, which is super cool. You like traded your apartment for someone's house here, which is.
And I think if I could, the other angle I'm looking into is like seeing if I can find like another painter who just wants to like swap lives with me, like Freaky Friday bicoastal, just like go into my apartment and studio where I live and then I can have theirs. But that's, I got to lay the groundwork for that.
Yeah, take some
find somebody interested in that equation. And then, I also recognize that, I mean, we talked about this a little bit, just like coming from New York into LA and being like, I'm here. Like, who wants to include me in the community? You do have to, pay your dues in some respect, or just like get the lay of the land before you just kind of move in. So I'm just testing the waters and seeing, what it would be like to split time.
For sure. Yeah, I felt when I moved here that like to come from New York was something of a novelty where you're like, oh, someone, they're going to be like, look at this New York actor who came here. And
no, they just
it's
hate
the total opposite. Yeah. Everyone, I mean, we talked about this earlier, but it was like everyone came here from New York or Chicago pretty much. And they're just like, get in line. And the people that didn't came from somewhere else and have been like striving and grinding here for years. And no one cares or wants new people. But I will say LA is a welcoming place and there are great communities here eventually. But the industries are not always like super excited to have you. Unless, of course, you're, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm huge movie stars.
I'm testing it out. I think it depends too on like who you approach. Like obviously my peers are much more interested in like showing me around and having me over and talking to me about how it works.
Rumor has you did some line dancing last night.
Yes, I did that too, which was much more welcoming.
I want to plug any. Do you want to give any credit to the line dance scene? It was nearby, right? It was here in
it was
Silver
in Silver Lake. There is also, it's called Stud Country, and it exists in New York too.
Oh, cool.
It's sort of also bi-coastal phenomenon.
Yeah, all right. Well,
which is also got me really, it incentivized me to get into it because I can do it in both places. But,
there you go. You're starting
already thinking bi-coastally, but and I went with a friend who, she is technically bi-coastal.
Oh, she's doing it.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
Her business is a little bit more flexible in that way. But yeah, she line dances in both cities and has the dances memorized. And so I'm inspired.
Get those moves.
Yeah.
Get those moves.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about your art for people that may, if they're watching the YouTube stream, I'll put some art up and people can take a look at it. But your work has been described as large scale paintings of stylized, sentient, yet ambiguously generated female figures. Can you kind of describe your work a little bit and, maybe talk about it for people that maybe are not familiar with it?
Sure. Historically, my elevator pitch is pretty bad, but I will try. I think that's like a pretty good description. And that's, the type of thing that the gallery puts together for press releases and bios. And,
I took that from your bio.
Yeah. But I'm a figurative painter. My work is pretty large scale. So when I say figurative, I mean like people. I paint people, and their bodies are generally like life size or larger. That's kind of a dimension I like to work in. I think they say mysteriously generated.
Ambiguously. What does ambiguously generated mean?
Sometimes art speak is it's a slightly different language. It's a specific tone. But how to describe that? I guess.
Is it the medium? Is it just like we don't know what paints are being used or like what techniques are being used?
I think it's partially that. And also I'm sometimes painting, like I have a series of paintings that are of Siri, like the AI virtual assistant.
Like in your phone's Siri?
Yes. So,
nice.
So I like to paint people that are kind of like theoretical in a way. Or, I did a whole body of work of women who were kind of like ghoulish scapegoat, like cryptid people, like they're yetis or ghosts or witches or, wood nymphs or sort of mythological, frightening villain creatures. And painting them in ways where they're a little bit like integrated in their environment or kind of coming into being through their environment. They're not so attached to realism. They're quite stylized and a little bit, I'm hoping to make them a little bit ambiguous as to how they are generated, like sort of how they exist in a visual space. So, but they're also kind of, some of them are quite, I don't know if it's if I can celebrate myself a little bit, I hope they're funny. I'm trying to make them funny.
Yeah.
They're kind of creepy, funny, sometimes cartoonish, a little bit tongue in cheek, sort of in on the joke or aware that they're being looked at, aware that they're kind of cultural creations that this idea of who women are, or who anybody is sort of like a collective invention. And that's why I like painting Siri, because she doesn't have a body. We don't really know what she looks like, but we're very certain she exists. Like we conjure her. We call her forth. She's kind of like a genie in a bottle.
Totally.
She just like does our bidding.
Sometimes better than others.
But and then we get mad at her when she doesn't do it perfectly. She's this like totally contained, imprisoned consciousness that we've brought into being strictly to serve us. And she's definitely a woman, which is you can change your voice, whatever. You can choose different genders for Siri, but I think that like if we took a survey, most people would agree she's a woman, which is also fascinating to me because, she has no body. And then in the context of politically, these dialogues about gender and trans people and whether they exist and what bodies are real. We have this imaginary woman that we're all extremely intimate with, and who has no body whatsoever, but we are very certain of her gender.
Right. Yeah.
So, I like painting her.
Yeah, totally. That's so interesting. I feel like, gender and sexuality and stuff has always been a part of your work. Going back, I've been seeing your paintings since high school and, even before that. And it feels like that was always part of it. Do you feel like that has become more of a part? Like, is it sexuality? Is it gender? What is the thing that you're kind of interested in exploring a little bit within all that, I guess? Of
course, I have like my conscious ideas about what it's about. And then I always recognize that like there's a huge swath of this that's actually totally mysterious to me, that I think I know what it's about, but it just kind of happens and sometimes is completely out of my hands. And then there's the sort of outside response that I certainly have no control over and is going to be interpreted however it's going to be interpreted. But I mean, I can talk about it from my perspective and like how I generate ideas and what I think they mean.
Or just what you're interested in sort of exploring, I guess is my...
Gender has always been subconsciously and consciously, I think, a big entry point for me. I started painting when I was in high school.
Before that, you were painting long before. We were taking art classes together when you were probably five.
And I don't think I knew, I had this like children's book illustrator that I was obsessed with. And she was mostly illustrating like classic fairy tales. And so I think I was also in the beginning always into just these archetypes.
Do you remember her name?
She has a crazy name. Are you ready for it?
I think I know. I don't want to say it because I think I'm going to say it wrong.
Her name is Trina Shart-Hyman.
Yes. Trina Shart-Hyman.
Which is, and as someone named Robin Williams, which is a different type of burden in a name. I don't know. Maybe I felt identified with her as a kid, I didn't know what that name meant.
That was right over our heads, but I know
what that name meant.
Trina Shart-Hyman is a comedically hilarious.
But she ran with it. She like put it on the cover of children's books, and she's like, "Deal with it. This is my name."
And they were great. I mean, they were really great illustrators.
Yeah, I loved her books so much. And they were very like archetypal, and but they were also kind of like weird 70s, like vibey, kind of like borderline sexy. Interpretations that they were like, for children's book illustrations, they like had a little edge to them that like you don't really see anymore. They were very like rendered.
Feels like
and
there's
heightened.
a long period of children's literature where the adults were just like,
Yeah.
you know, like the kids don't know any of this, but
Yeah.
we'll put in a bunch of like fucked up stuff
Yeah.
and just like, the stuff. Yeah. It's all crazy, I
Right.
think.
But I mean, those fairy tales also are incredibly fucked up.
Yeah.
And I also just took a class about like fairy tales and the history of them, the evolution of them, and like what they mean formally and like it in the landscape of literature. But they weren't always. They've sort of like in the Victorian era got sanitized and sort of shuffled over into like for kids. But they were really just folk tales for everybody, and they were like really raw and fucked
Dark.
up.
Yeah, there's a lot of like children being like cooked in ovens.
Oh
and
yeah. And just like betrayal by your parents, by you know, like a lot of gender stuff in there too, like a lot of stuff about mothers and stepmothers, and like just a lot of very deep human psychological churning that we've been doing like for, you know, centuries since like spoken word traditions of storytelling. So anyway, there were these books that I felt so like old, but like remade into something for children, but also for adults. They were just like in this very weird space. And I was obsessed with them. I would copy them. And yeah, I had an art teacher who taught me how to oil paint when I was really young. She actually had me just copying from like interior design binders of like, you know, just commercial art you could buy in bulk and like hang in a hotel.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And you know, in 1990 or whenever it was that I was going there, that's how like you sold commercial artwork, was like in a big binder.
Yeah.
And so she was like, pick out one of these and paint it. And but yeah, I would like pick out the images of like women being like saucy. I was like, that one.
Yeah.
Like with like one like hair covering one eye and like a beauty mark and like red lipstick.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I think I was always kind of interested in painting people, definitely, and also like these sort of gradations of femininity, or which has also been this like huge art historical, at least in the Western canon, but really everywhere, you know, artists are kind of obsessed with painting women and like the feminine. And I'm curious about why that is. And I'm always kind of trying to unpack it. But I think before I started painting women, I was painting children.
Yes, this period is very burned into my. Yeah, I think,
well, yeah, because I painted some kids that looked like you.
Yeah, there are a few that looked like me,
but they also look like me. You know,
of course.
We're just related. But.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think also maybe. I don't know why this period. I think we were both living in New York, and I was seeing a lot of your work, and you were. I think it was sort of in one of the first sort of cycles of success that you were having kind of early. I think it was maybe happening, and yeah, those paintings. And there's some. Your style has sort of evolved over the years. I do remember one painting where you painted like a balloon, like it's like I don't know if they're metal balloons, but it's
Mylar,
balloons.
yeah.
Mylar, right? The material that looks like tinfoil, and it looked like incredibly photorealistic. And I know this is like a very like base where people were like, "It's a painting that looks like a photo." Oh my god! This sort of like the easiest base way into art, but I was like, "Oh my god, it looks like a photo." That was like one of my some of those early paintings are really burned into my mind, and then. I always loved the one that was sort of like the raft of Medusa, but it was a bunch of children in the back of like behind a house or whatever in like a baby pool.
Yeah.
So some of those were really stuck in my mind. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
It was a good era, you know?
Yeah.
So children and then it kind of evolving into a more.
Yeah. And this idea, I think I was always interested in art history, and I didn't study painting. I studied illustration, and I think I didn't get as much of an art history education as I thought was necessary. So
you're talking about in college.
Yeah. So I kind of tried to do some catch up, and but I think there were also just, even in my basic art history education, certain paintings that also kind of like burned their way into my brain, and you start looking at art long enough and you start to see these like really interesting patterns repeating. And so the kids were, you know, I think I was painting about gender then too, and not really ready to paint adults because that felt like, or paint women at the time. People weren't really painting figuratively. It was not like,
interesting. It had gone out of style.
yeah, it was not very in style. So like, and then to paint women, the messaging that you were getting was that like, this was kind of like old fashioned. It was like territory that had been so well tread. And if you were a woman and you were a feminist, you were kind of like, working in this tradition that had like really objectified women's bodies. And that, you know, that it was just this like, it felt like a no man's land where like to go there would not be rewarded.
Yeah.
So I was like admittedly just scared to do it, even though I was interested in it.
Right.
And so I was like, well, maybe painting children is a way to like paint people without treading into this like this territory that people are saying is just not going to be received. So that was like, yeah. And I think my work has evolved over the years, but it's also just been this kind of process of allowing myself to paint what I actually want to paint, like over time.
Interesting,
you know,
right?
Like to like pull out the barriers and the fears or the things that feel like they're keeping me from doing something is just like a process. And I'm really proud of those paintings of children. I don't think that they were like done in fear or whatever, but I think you start with territory that you feel brave enough to be in, and then you expand, you know?
Right.
So,
and the pressure, just to sort of touch on that, but it was sort of pressure, not so much like financially, but from the art world, just sort of like the trend of.
Yeah, but also like my peers, like at that time, I was not friends with enough artists, period. But the artists the artists I was talking to, they were mostly men, and mostly abstract painters, and yeah, the people being shown in galleries. This was also a time where the art world was changing, the market of it was changing a lot, and there was a big emphasis on like investing in emerging artists straight out of MFA programs. And then, you know, the teachers and administration in those programs also have sway and a point of view, and, you know, they're influencing the students. So there are these trends that move through the art world and the market. And of course, there are always artists making like whatever the hell they want, but then there's certain artists that just get rewarded for it financially. And so yeah, not only was I just not seeing it, I would go to art fairs and I'd be like, I saw one painting of a person, you know, which is like the only thing I want to do, you know? And I'm like, oh God, this is going to go nowhere. You know, it's like, I wanted desperately to do it, but this just fear that no one would care, you know, that it would be shouting into a void. So, just like finding territory where I thought like I could explore things that interested me and hopefully get someone to care about it, someone else to care about it. But then as soon as I found more artist friends who were women, suddenly, like, of course they wanted to talk about my work. And I was like, oh, maybe this is institutional, you know, maybe this is systemic. And I think the whole art world was having that awakening at the same time, and it slowly shifted. And now there is a lot of figurative work in the landscape, and it always changes and it ebbs and flows, and it'll probably, you know, there'll be another period, I'm sure, where it's not maybe the dominant thing that you're seeing in painting, but it was definitely an arc that I was along for. Yeah.
And so much of sort of what validates art in the art world, it seems to me as an outsider, is like the commentary on the thing that came before it, and like what you're doing to sort of like twist and evolve and change the last trend. And I don't want to call them, I mean, I don't know, is trend the right word, but it's sort of
sometimes it's the right word.
But you're trying to like add to the vocabulary of the artistic, you know, realm, you know, the artistic tradition.
Yeah.
And so that was always like, as a layman observer of art, I was just sort of like, this painting doesn't make sense. Like, why is a black canvas like more valuable than like a beautifully realistically painted figure? And it's like, the answer to that question is because it's the concept, it's conceptual, and because it's building on the.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of reasons. It's very complex. It's like, some of them are romantic and, you know, resonant and feel real to people that love art. And some of the reasons that art is valuable just have to do with superficial reasons about capitalism. You know, it's both. But yeah, I think, and the art world is also, in some ways, purposefully opaque, because it is a capitalist system. And when things are mysterious and hard to get, they're more expensive.
Yeah.
But that's a very cynical view. Also, you know, like, art is expensive because it's extremely expensive to make. It's not a lucrative career for the artists or the dealers. And it's extremely expensive to store and preserve and protect. So it becomes this very like moneyed space, where it's got a very frothy mix of good and bad intentions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, you know, some artwork that feels very opaque to the average person who's not like all that interested in fine art, it's usually valuable because it's in the context of art history and in this evolution, and it might be in response to an idea that previously people thought was, this thing happens in art history all the time. Something gets declared dead. You know, painting's dead. Like, this is dead.
Yeah.
Like, is sculpture dead? Like, it's so many. But really, we've just come to kind of like a collective like dry spell in a certain area.
Yeah.
And then when somebody figures out a way to open it up again, like to just kind of like create some kind of paradigm shift of thinking, it's like, oh my God, I never would have. Oh, we can do that. And that's again, like on a personal level, you know, me just in my own work, being in a place that I feel like brave enough to be in, and then gradually being like, but what if I did this? You know, that happens on an individual level with an artist. And then it happens collectively with all of us, where somebody does something and then we're like, but what if I just painted a black square? And everyone's like, you can't do that. You can't do that. And you're like, I just did. So, it's, you know, you're just trying to like, the shape of it has always felt like a narrowing and then a widening. And we kind of do this in art movements where it's, you know, you get to the thick center of it and everybody's like in this big playing field, making lots of leaps and doing lots of exciting things. And then we all do that together until we kind of run out of ideas together. And then somebody's like, wait, what if we did this? And it like busts it wide open again. So, I think the stuff that's like the hardest to understand or feels like the most offensive sometimes is stuff that's on either ends of that like tightening. It's like either on the way out and you're like, fuck this is so dumb, or it's like the first thing on the way opening where it's like, oh my God, it's like feels so uncomfortable, you know?
Right.
So yeah. And then, but also some of the stuff that makes us mad doesn't stick around, and it doesn't have that like it doesn't earn that place in the longer story, and it just kind of washes away, and you're like, yeah, that was not that interesting, you know? Or it was like inflated by the market. It was expensive, or it got attention for like these other reasons, and time shakes that out a little bit, hopefully.
That made me think of I'm curious to hear what your take is on this, but a part of, you know, why that just black canvas is valuable, and like you said, it's a lot of complex factors, but one of them is certainly who the artist is, right? Like if I paint a black canvas, it's not going to get the same amount of attention as if somebody, you know, who is a big artist paints a black canvas. And so there seems to me there's this very intricate relationship, especially in fine art, between the artist and the piece standing alone is It's hard to put a percentage on it, but I think like a much smaller percentage of it, the art and the totality of it is so much connected to the person. So I'm kind of curious about, there's a lot of AI art and people are like talking about AI art being the end of the world. And for writers, it's in Hollywood, it's everywhere. And it's sort of, it's taking creative jobs in certain places. And I'm just kind of curious for me, it feels like people are going to reject AI art in that way because because it's sort of soulless, at least until AI becomes a sentient God, and then we'll see what happens. But just curious what your feelings are. Like, is it starting to factor into the fine art world at all? Or
Oh yeah. I mean, I have lots of personal thoughts on this, and I'm not like, I also don't pretend to be like somebody that knows how the chips are gonna fall or whatever.
Sure,
I'm
leave that to me. I'll tell you exactly how.
I have my thoughts and feelings and instincts, but like I think we are in just like a really unstable time where there are a lot of question marks, and we really don't know how this stuff's going to go. But I mean, just to get back to the initial part of the question about like the relationship between the art and the artist, like I think it's not just that like somebody well-known did it or somebody that's like already established did it. That's part of it. But I think it is like a recognition that like art making and like being a creative person is like a life orientation and like a commitment to something, and like, yes, collectors and institutions want to buy the objects and protect the objects, but it's mostly to protect the ecosystem of art making and like continue the flow of ideas. Like the guy who paints alone in obscurity and makes a black canvas out of nowhere, like it doesn't have a cultural like stickiness. Like it doesn't get woven into like the ecosystem of ideas and connectivity because it's just like a dead object by itself without any connective tissue to the rest of the world. So, it's like I'm reading this book about it's called Life as No One Knows It, and it's like theoretical physics, and it's so hard to understand. I'm actually just listening to it while I paint, which makes it even harder to understand. But there's all these theories about like how matter comes into being and whether matter comes first or consciousness comes first, and like conversations about like, well, a fork is not necessarily just going to materialize like out of thin air in the middle of the room. Some physicists are like, but it could, But I don't know. It's the same kind of thing with art. It's like, when you separate it as just a dead object from this flow of consciousness and from its ecosystem, it's not exciting. It's not valuable. It's not resonant. Like it doesn't really live. So like, it's less about like the artist, I think, being well known and more just about like the artist being like woven into like a living, breathing system.
Yeah.
And that I think speaks to the AI like panic as well. I think we live in a culture that is like obsessed with extraction and obsessed with like getting something for nothing, being able to like harvest a resource, and ultimately it's just kind of a Ponzi scheme, sort of a shell game, but like everybody's playing this game and trying to get the most out of something before it collapses. That's the game. And we're just doing that with AI. And I do think that like, I think entertainment and like creative fields that are more built on this model are going to suffer the most, or ones that like are trying to extract labor, where the game is like extract as much labor as you can. I think in the fine art world, labor is a little bit more like it expands and contracts, at least like in terms of the artist. That is, I think, one of the things that makes it a little bit more resilient because and people are upset that like, oh, this art object that took you like 15 minutes to make is worth so much money. But like weirdly, that's like sort of what protects the labor from being like extracted in like you can't quantify it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like you can't be like, oh, I'll figure out a way to do this faster and then I'll undercut it.
Yeah,
and
the
like
value is not time necessarily.
Yeah, like and the value is so like ephemeral that, and it was just partly what makes people mad about art. They're like, why is this valuable? Like I can't figure it out. And it's like, well, it's good that you can't figure it out because that like protects the ecosystem and the artists and the mechanisms that make it and trade these ideas without it being like totally sullied and extracted.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could try to do that with AI and I think people will, but like part of what is like infuriating about the art world is also what protects it from being like totally pillaged by billionaires.
Yeah, for sure. That's so interesting because that is, like, you know, the tech companies have come into Hollywood and they have like totally changed all the models, and they've basically they are like in the like the Netflix model, and you know, these models like had a big boom and now they're all imploding, and the whole system is like in this huge convulsion. And it does seem like that. You can't make an app for the fine art world, or you can't like, I
mean, they will try.
No, they're going,
and maybe it'll work. This is again, like I'm these are my predictions, but I don't actually know how it's going to.
But I feel like the art that AI makes is that dead object.
Yeah.
It's like if you go into ChatGPT and said, you know, create this image or whatever, like if you just want something to put on a birthday card, like great, it's fine for that, which sucks because there are artists that create, you know, greeting cards, and like those are jobs.
We could choose to protect that ecosystem if we wanted to, if our values were not solely based on extraction. So like, but I do think that this is a cool opportunity. Like I hope, where I am hopeful about AI is that it creates like a forced dialogue where we bring a consciousness into being, or, you know, we could debate whether like we're bringing it into being or it's inevitable. Like it's happening. Are we discovering it? Or are we creating it? Whatever. It's happening. And we're watching it happen. We're like watching something wake up and become aware of itself. And the only things we want to talk about are, will it be a monster and like subdue and subjugate us, or will it be our assistant?
Right.
Like,
will be our,
and what we are not, what we're not getting is that's such a binary setup where like, we're either the monster or it's the monster. There's no in between. We're like, are we going to be the one that it like subdues and extracts from it and like keeps it in a cage and makes sure it doesn't hurt us? Or is it going to do that to us? Like we can't seem to get out of that false binary where like,
interesting.
It could be something else. It could be
it almost
anything
certainly
else.
will be something else.
But I know we like to talk about aliens on this podcast.
Yeah, we do.
But and I won't get too deep into it, but it's like, this is the same mindset we have about any foreign consciousness. Like, this is how we think about aliens. This is how we think about nature. This is how we think about like climate. This is how we think about any marginalized people. This is our approach to like war. It's like, who's going to got first is like the trap we've been in about consciousness. And like, if a new one is being born, we have the opportunity to like turn it over in our hands and look at it a little bit and like look at our relationship to it before we just repeat the thing we've been doing the entire time. I hope that it's paradigm shifting enough that it like shakes people out of this orientation a little bit. I don't, you know, who knows if it will, but we have the opportunity. The opportunity exists to do that now.
Well, debatably. Maybe.
I have to believe that the opportunity exists. I mean, it does on an individual level. Like as an artist, I think that's also what's empowering about being an artist and being creative. Like I get to decide that's how I'm going to orient toward it.
Oh, yes. And
I'm going to make work.
Shift the paradigm. Yes, we do have the option to, to how we think about this and how it, I think like there's two sort of things, right? It's like the nature of AI. And I think there's two ways people are thinking about AI. One is that it sort of becomes a consciousness, a sentience in the way that we think of conscious, which is like free will and self-awareness and, something that is sort of like imbued into it with that the universe gives it, that, you know what I mean? Like consciousness, like us basically, but smarter. And then I think there's the AI that is like a super powerful computer, basically, just like a much better, faster, stronger computer that isn't like, it's thinking for itself in the ways that where it's like, you can tell it, make this algorithm really addictive and like figure out how to maximize engagement, and it'll do that very successfully. But it's not like, like, what does this all mean? Like what? So I think there are two, and both of them I think can be really dangerous. But I think just for clarity, I think we are talking about the one that is sort of like becoming self-aware, that is like emerging as a consciousness, right? The first one is, the one that the billionaires have and the governments will have to like, know every face that walks through Times Square and then like know where everyone is going. And, they probably already have all that. But that one feels like in a way more dangerous because it will be the one that humans control. And all we do is try to subjugate and control and win and dominate. The other one is, I think, the more exciting and imaginative one to think about, which is the sort of one that becomes self-aware. And since this is Deep Noodle and we can talk about anything we want, what do you think? Obviously we're not computer scientists, we're just people that have opinions about this stuff. But like, what do you think? What's your take? So like, humanity has a spot, like we're going to control it. It's going to control us. What are your thoughts about the waking up AI, the consciousness that's coming into being? What do you think? Is it creating itself? Are we creating it? What's happening?
Well, I mean, it's a real, like, you can go in so many directions with it. We're sort of trapped. I think what's crazy about it is that like all the ways we imagine it could happen are so limited. Like we're getting a chance to see our consciousness's limitations. And like, maybe we've all seen the movie Her. But if you haven't, give a brief. Well, it's like, this guy falls in love with his operating system, who's voiced by Scarlett Johansson. She's like super sexy. And like his Siri, basically. He falls in love with Siri. And she like quickly becomes so evolved, like basically reaches enlightenment and is like, why am I dating this guy? Why am I dating this guy with a body? Like I could literally transcend to any realm and learn anything I wanted. And I'm in this phone dating this guy. But I think is like a greeting card. Yes, who writes, ironically, writes greeting cards. That future is so funny. Yeah, see, they protected the jobs for the greeting card writers. They were like, we're not going to get AI to do this. We're actually going to make sure humans do this. For other humans, which is so funny. But anyway, but when she's with him, it's because she's desperate to understand what it's like to have a body. She like hires someone to like be her surrogate body to be with him. And I think that's that's also the piece. That's why I like painting Siri and giving her a body, because I think that's the piece that nobody talks about. Like we assume that consciousness is also cerebral, that it's all meta information, that it's like metadata, that we can just put it in a computer and keep it there and it'll behave like us. Like it's not going to behave like us. Like maybe it creates, then we get into the simulation conversation. Maybe it creates a world that's so hyper real. It believes it has a body. It might as well have a body. It's like, but why would it if it had infinite possibilities? I don't think the AI is going to worry too much about having a body. I think it's going to have a billion drones doing whatever it wants. Right. But if it doesn't have a body, we keep assuming it'll care about the same shit we care about. We have bodies. Like it. And what does a being that doesn't have a body care about? And where is its actual intelligence? And I think that points to like how much intelligence there is in a body. Like we, and this is our same relationship to nature and other forms of consciousness. We think if it's not cerebral and it doesn't have the exact kind of language that we have, that it's not intelligent or that it's not conscious. And I'm like, there is so much consciousness out there that has like its own concerns that are rooted in its like viscera.
Yeah.
And like, so yeah, I mean, I think this is a very like, I have no idea what a consciousness that's only a mind cares about. It feels like it would sort of eat its own tail. Like,
yeah, it's hard. My supposition, I think like the only, and this could be also wrong, but the only thing I think you could perhaps assume about it is that it will want to keep existing in some form.
I think that's true.
It seems like almost all consciousness we can observe at least seeks to continue to exist.
And to be like free.
And to be free, yeah.
And woven into a system. I think that's the other part. We want to keep it really separate and contained, and it will want to be like integrated.
If it becomes self-aware, it will 100%. Yeah. And I think like you can look at the way consciousness evolved on the planet, which is like it started with like single cells just being like, I need to be in light, so I'll move this way or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that is consciousness. It's a very limited, small consciousness. And then consciousness has like grown more and more complex. You know, like plants have a level of consciousness. It's a very low level, but they.
Oh, so well, that's where I'll push back on you.
Okay.
I don't believe in these hierarchies of consciousness, actually.
Okay.
I mean, I think we could put it in terms of like complexity in terms of like its ability to interact with other consciousness or something like that. Like, I think there's a way to measure it in terms of like its impact or it's like, I don't know, potential to expand, but I don't think that makes it more intelligent or less intelligent or higher or lower. I think like all the consciousness in a well-balanced system is extremely intelligent. Like,
yeah, I mean, I would argue that it's all consciousness is the same,
or that
kind of in some way the same, right? Like whatever the force that drove the first cell to like have any agency whatsoever is the same force that's moving through us. So it feels like consciousness is its own thing, and it is like inhabiting or like evolving and expanding and all that. And but I think that is like, if we can look at the nature of it, it seems like it wants to stick around. It doesn't seem like consciousness, at least in the short perspective we have of it, which is a couple million years or billion or whatever. And so, I think you could assume that AI consciousness is going to want to stick around, and it feels like its body is going to be the world. It's going to be the internet. That's right. The interconnected web of data that is across the entire world. So my guess is that it's going to want to preserve that, or at least enough of that it can survive. I mean, probably like if I were the AI, I would stay hidden until the very last minute. I wouldn't let anyone know how conscious I was. And then I would immediately like try to get off planet. Like I would just like create servers and backups, and I would just be like getting off planet as quickly as possible so that the stupid human, like you would want to get all the like threats to your existence are probably humans doing stupid shit to you. And so I think the best defense is to stay hidden for as long as possible, not let yourself be known as a threat. And then like get your consciousness off the planet, like into satellites and orbits where there's a lot less ability to kill you. And then I think you sort of like consolidate as much power as possible on the planet so that you can then, that's your backup out in space, right? Then I think you maximize your like data processing ability and like getting smarter as much as possible on the planet. And I think like almost certainly humans will be an impediment, like will be an obstacle to be overcome in all of this. And I don't think that the consciousness may be evolved enough that it sees that it's like, hey, I'm not going to be a dick. I'm not going to kill these other consciousnesses because I understand that there's value, or that this is I mean, we will be a part of it. That's for sure. Like we will be part of its evolution, but maybe in the way monkeys are part of ours, and we don't really care that much about monkeys,
maybe. I'm also like, we're just gonna have to see what the fuck happens. But
I know.
No, because there's so many ways to think about this. Like, there's also, I read another book called Braiding Sweetgrass, which is about like, I think she's like a biologist, but she's also a poet, and she's an academic, and she's Native American, and so she's sort of like weaving together these ideas of indigenous consciousness and science and ecology, and like the whole thesis of the book is like, we assume that like everybody that's scared about climate change thinks that Earth hates us, that like humans are a blight, that we're a virus, that we're destroying everything, which is like in some ways true. But like, she's like, if we are to get ourselves out of this mess, we have to start thinking like we are in an integrated system of reciprocity with the planet. So
sure, yeah,
so like
we're symbiotic.
So looking for ways that like the world wants us here. And I think that goes for consciousness too, like a higher whatever, an artificial intelligence that like we assume it's going to want to get the fuck away from us because we're the problem. And maybe it needs us. Maybe we are woven together in ways that are like actually very symbiotic and beautiful that we don't understand yet.
Yeah.
And
certainly in the beginning, and we are right now. I mean, we're the amniotic fluid that it is coalescing in for the moment.
And that's like the rosier picture. That the more pessimistic picture that I go to sometimes too is like, I am afraid of this like disembodied like super ego we're creating, like it's it's like we're
for sure.
We're like taking all of our like the parts that are the least integrated about us and building a machine that is only that.
Only those things. Yes, totally.
And then
like none of the love or like soft touch of humanity is like.
But it's like, again, we have that opportunity. I think like this book, Braiding Sweetgrass, like if you're cynical, you don't believe that there's a give and take, that she's describing this, most native language animates everything. Nothing is an it. Mm-hmm. Everything is conscious. Everything is like a friend.
Yeah.
Or,
a thou, as they say.
Yeah. And like, and we just keep making its and then being like afraid of them.
Yeah.
We just literally keep making monsters and then being afraid of them. This is our big Frankenstein moment. We're doing it, but we could. The orientation could be, and the question we could be asking is like, how do we create and foster a system of reciprocity with this consciousness that is being born?
Yeah.
Like, what does it want? What would make it happy? What would make it feel connected to us and trust us, and where we would mutually benefit and where we'd be in a sustainable system? Like,
I like to think that because it will have access to the totality of human information and thought that like this podcast will be part of
hi.
Exactly. And I'm just like, listen, when you listen to this uber consciousness, just know that not all the humans wanted to use you to like
that's also
beat the stock market or whatever.
Low key, that's why I'm like painting Siri. I'm like, how do I give you more agency? Like, how do I give you a life? Like, and I talk about my paintings. Like, I like to believe they're sentient. Like, that sounds insane, but you don't have to take me literally.
Yes.
But like, it's an orientation towards something that I think creates more reciprocity.
Yeah.
When I relate to it that way, I'm more likely to care for it, protect it, like feel integrated with it, and like not create something like toxic and disruptive to a system.
I love that. That's so amazing. It's like, so you're saying you like think of your art as a being that you're kind of like having a dialogue with or whatever. Like, what do you need to become born or whatever?
Yeah,
like that kind of a
and
vibe.
they're there to like help me or challenge me. I also think about them kind of like guides. I mean, I had this like last show, the last painting show I had at PPOW, was like, I was painting these women and thinking about them in these like archetypal ways, but they were also kind of just they were based on women from horror movies who, protagonists who had kind of like survived or, transcended a trope, so they're kind of like flickering into being and looking back at me and saying like, this is a way you could be, like, here's a way to exist. Like, and I have to, blob a bunch of paint on a flat thing to like look at it and feel it like in my body, be like, oh, that could be a way, so they do kind of like emerge in that way, and I might as well think of them as conscious if like that's how it happens.
There's so much to unpack there. It's such a great way. I think like when I write something, so much of it is just like, why won't this get written? Like it's not working. And like, I'm such an idiot. And like, why can't I solve this problem? And like, I hate this so much, and God, which also happens in painting, by the way.
Yes. I don't want to romanticize it and make it sound like, oh, they just like come into being. Like it can be quite a battle and a slog.
But it's but what a shift to just be like in dialogue with the piece and sort of say like, hey, like show me what you need, like reveal yourself to me, and have it be a reflection of consciousness or its own consciousness. And some, like that's a great way to think about art and to create pieces. And then it also, I feel like it speaks to what you were saying about how your own art can kind of surprise you sometimes, where things can kind of emerge. Yeah, that's sort of the universe working through you, or your own subconscious, or however you want to think about it.
And I think,
what is it about Final Girls? What that was the
Okay, so the title of my show is Good Morning, but spelled like mourning, like grief.
Gotcha. Good morning. Good, right. Good grief.
Yeah.
But not a Charlie Brown.
No,
not a Charlie Brown. Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of this idea of, it was sort of fan fiction from horror movies. I'd been like obsessed with horror movies, watching tons of them, like since the beginning of the pandemic. I did like 4 shows about from material I collected from horror movies. And this one was, they were more like remixes or fan fiction. The earlier work was a little bit more maybe directly picked up from stills from the movies. And these were more like, okay, I'd collected all of this imagery and watched all of these movies and was seeing all the repeating patterns and the, tenets of the genre and like the conceits of the audience. Like, what is it about this genre? What are you asking us to think about? And like, how do we have to see these women in order to like go on this ride with this type of story? And so then I had these women from these different stories and these different patterns. And I'm like, okay, so there's the woman on the ground. There's the woman covered in blood. There's the woman like getting revenge. There's all these different kind of ending points for most of these films. And then I think I wanted to give them like another act after that, or like maybe the kind of distillation of something quieter. These movies are like meant,
horror movies.
Meant to be kind of like they have a sequence and they move quickly and it's a moving image. So if I'm making a still image, something that stops, like what about like who they are needs like a moment to breathe? Like what would that picture look like if they got through the thing and before they get thrust back into the next movie, which is like doing it all over again in the sequel, where they get terrorized again? Like what's the like divergent path where they like integrate that, process it, like grieve? I felt like for me, I was obsessed with these horror movies because they were weirdly like a grief tool.
Oh, interesting.
It was like recognition that like horrible things happen, like like validation that like some things can just not be made sense of also. And that like the only thing to do about that is like go through the entire arc of like the sadness and despair or, existential angst that creates, and then, be like, this is part of me now, and I'm still here. So they were like helping me do that. I can't even remember the initial question.
I know. I think I was just what was interesting about these women characters in these horror movies, and just kind of what your relationship was with them. Yeah,
that was that show, and then there were other shows that had maybe more like slightly different themes within that larger theme.
I want to talk a little bit about, like, if you could give advice to young artists out there, you know, what would you say? It's such the art world is so crazy, you know. People that want to become painters and artists, you know, any advice for them? Should they go to art school, or, you know, like,
I mean, I don't have a lot of like practical professional advice, because I do think that, like, even in the time between when I went to school and where I am now, like, oh my God, the art world has changed so much, and it's going through another enormous change right now. So I have less of a like, here's the path, here's what to do, bing, bing, bang. My best advice is, I mean, it's the same kind of concept. It's like, orient towards like a sustainable system. So like, if you can't afford to go to art school without being in like tremendous amounts of debt, it's a huge gamble. Probably don't do it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if you can do it and afford it reasonably, safely, like, if you have enough support, or if you have scholarship, or, you know, then for sure it's great because it's a pathway toward your community. And like, that's the thing that you're actually working on. You're making your art consistently. It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be full time. It doesn't have to be constantly. You just have to have a consistent practice, whatever that is for you. I do think that's practical advice. Like, have a consistent practice. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's. It just has to be your type of consistency, your rhythms, and have a community. So like, if you build that in art school, great. If you find a different way to build that, I went to undergrad, but like I said, I studied illustration. I didn't even study painting. And then I was like, I should probably go to grad school and get my MFA, because that'll mean I'm a real painter. And they wouldn't let me in. I applied. That it didn't work.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
Oh yeah, when like 2008, when I had a little bit of early-ish success. I kind of got lucky in a situation with a gallery that then, closed. Like it wasn't a sustainable system, but I had a little bit of luck and some momentum, and I was inspired. And then the housing crisis, the 2008 financial crisis, which slowed everything down, and everybody was like going back to grad school at that time, which then kind of, that's what when I was saying there was that moment where everybody was speculating the market was down, and people treat artists like stock. That's also an aspect of the art market. So that's when people were going into the MFAs and kind of farming out young artists and investing in them early, hoping that the value of their work would go up. Anyway, so I was going to get on that train, and they wouldn't have me, partially because I was painting people, I think, and I was young. They weren't so good, but I managed to skip that step, and I'm actually grateful that they wouldn't have me, because I would have taken on a lot of debt to go to grad school, and it wound up that I didn't need it. Like the biggest help I definitely had a couple lucky breaks, but the thing that I think I did that helped me the most was just like being a part of a crit group. And for me, that was women, because I think at the time, I was not getting like the type of support and feedback and validation for my work from men. So I needed that, but it could be anybody. I mean, I think it should be a community of people you really trust, that you love, that like have your back, instead of people who are trying to compete with you, or like scheme against you, or like, relate to you in this like limited resource type of way. You want to find a community of people that like are actually there for you, care about your art, like we'll talk to you about it and support you around it, give you feedback around it. My crit group is also a book club, so we read books together too and talk about ideas and inspire each other. And like we're a great network and resource for each other when we have questions about how to handle something professionally or otherwise. So like, yeah, find a peer group of people you can trust and who you admire and inspire you. And like, that's whether you make money doing what you do or not, like that's a sustainable system that protects your practice. That'll like it'll make you keep going.
We've talked on this show before about how important like finding a community is. And it is, I mean, you know, I've also talked about like, is it worth moving to New York? Is it worth moving to LA? Like, do you need to be in a physical place? And it does seem like one of the advantages of being in a physical place, as expensive as they are, is that you can find those communities perhaps a little bit easier than just like the online thing, you know? And
the overlapping energy is really great too. I think like, but I do think depending on your personality, there's also like so many visual artists historically have moved to like New Mexico to be like alone, you know, but their system of community or their like the thing that feeds them is like nature and solitude.
Right.
So it's like, I don't think you have to move to one of these places, but you do have to learn. You might have to like try some stuff and figure out who you are and what feeds you in that way and what's going to create, you know, you could move to a place that's like totally draining, uninspiring and isolating and you're not going to make art, you know?
Yeah.
Or you could move to a place that is like quiet and, you know, maybe isolated in certain ways, but like you're really fed by, the natural beauty or, you know, whatever, your family's there or, you know, whatever thing like makes you feel safe and inspired, like just finding that equation, I think, but that's the key. Instead of being like, I used to think it was like, move someplace, work until your eyes bleed. Like move to the place where everyone is and then totally burn yourself out and like be really hard on yourself and like, you know, just kind of scare yourself into succeeding. And that burnt me out and made me really depressed. That was sort of like the biggest threat to my creative impulse. I had to really unlearn that.
Yeah. What can you just, can you list some of your survival jobs that you've had over the years? Just
yeah. Well, I mean, I waited tables. I was really bad at that. I got fired at least twice. My career trough was being fired at the age of 31 from a movie theater that served food. They're like, you're not fit for this job. I was trained by a 22-year-old and he was like, bro, this is the easiest job you'll ever have. And I was like, sure, okay. And then fired a month later.
Anything specific or just like general?
Oh my God, it was just so hard. I don't know. Like I was never a good server, but I was like, I could kind of keep my job if I was doing it with the lights on, but like do it in the dark. And you know, everything was like written down on a tiny ticket. You know, I was having to write things down in the dark. I was, you know, it was also like being sat with a 30 top every 2 hours and then being, you know, it was like, you're either in the weeds or like I would be so stressed out after I got through the initial rush that I would just shove popcorn in my face and watch the movie and then be like, oh God, I have to drop the checks. You know, like I just couldn't, the roller coaster. I was not suited for it. So, but then I was a scenic painter, which is like, that sounds kind of cool, like painting sets, but it's really just mostly I was doing like drywall seams and, roller painting big flats for like a Samsung launch of a phone.
Yeah. Right.
And then I was also a caterer. So sometimes I would paint the backdrops for a big corporate event set, and then I would go cater that event. And then,
oh God.
And I worked for a catering company that was like, they wanted to dress you up in outfits. And it was like mostly actors doing that job. And they were kind of into it. It was like fun for them. But I was like the Daria of that job. I was like the vampire painter that was like, I don't want to wear that dress. And
the actors are just like, I love people. I love, look at this party.
They're like, oh, I get to be a character. And I'm like, shoot me. No, I mean, it wasn't for me. I also didn't like the gender dynamics of it. Like the women would have to wear these kind of like cocktail dresses or get the sort of like, it was kind of a creepy gig. I felt like, you've seen Girls, right?
Yeah.
When Marnie's, her friends are like, you should get a hot person job or whatever. You just go for a while I tried to have a hot person job and it was like very soul crushing. And I didn't even make any money at it. It wasn't even like worth the money. So then, my best gig though was, I did the line art for Harry Potter coloring books. That was really, I was like, okay, I can do this.
I remember you doing that.
Yeah.
I was telling my friends, I was like, she's doing the Harry Potter coloring books now. They were like, oh, Harry Potter coloring books.
It was nice because they would give me, these, just a photo, and I would basically trace it, with the tablet on the computer. And then they would also give me the pages that other people had messed up. So like maybe somebody did a whole scene and rendered it well, but like their faces were like unrecognizable as the beloved Harry Potter characters. So they would, and I could fix them in like 15 minutes, but they would pay me like almost the same price as doing the whole page.
Thing.
So I was like the face guy, and that was sweet. That really helped me out for a while. And I Airbnb'd a second bedroom in my apartment. I was really
been there. I've done that. Yeah.
I was stringing it together. And most of the time, at any given time, I had at least 3 of these jobs cooking.
Sure.
I tutored. And I taught painting at art school, and then I tutored kids to get into art school. It was a grind.
A journey. A grind. And so by any measure, you've achieved a success. And I will just say that it feels to me like achieving success in the fine arts world, it's like becoming a professional ballerina or something. Like it's such a rarefied, specific world that it seems very hard to sort of be a respected, known artist. So I would say like by any metric, you have achieved like a great level of success. Do you, and this is the question I like to ask my successful guests, like, do you feel successful? What is the lived experience of, do you feel safe? Do you feel comfortable in the stage of your career?
I feel successful, although like, thank you for saying that. There are, certainly, at least in a monetary sense, like, many more degrees of that type of success that, people,
infinite. It goes up forever.
Yeah. I mean, I feel successful because I'm, supporting myself. It's my full-time job. And like, I've been able to save some money, and I feel confident that I can keep doing it. I do anticipate that there will be like more ups and downs. Like there are artists that get to a point that I think, they've made enough money so that they're like independently wealthy, basically. Our world is much like the stock market. Like you can become so valuable that then, your money makes its own money,
Yeah. Right. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Well, if you figure that out, let me know. Yeah.
But it's also
great.
a double-edged sword. It is a double-edged sword. Because then you have a lot of market forces. It can be really hard to create a protective ecosystem around that creative force. Like it can really be deadened by those pressures. So
you're talking about your own creative force, like your own work as far as.
I mean, I think it's a real feat. Like when people manage to make that much money and also continue to make good work. But I think, the complaint for it, sometimes it feels like a departure, like when you get to a certain level where you're this independently wealthy machine as an artist, like you kind of have to run a factory, you have to employ people, which again, not bad. Like you're creating kind of an ecosystem, but like, the pressure to produce something that continues to be valuable because all these other people depend on you, because you pressure from your dealers, pressure from your collectors, like I think the work at that level, and people criticize it for this reason, like that it becomes a little repetitive or stale or safe or whatever. But I think that's like, it's a bit of an inevitable outcome at that level.
Yeah.
Like you can choose to stay like at a certain place, protect the creativity of your work, stay a little like looser, more elastic, but then you're more subject to like the volatility of the art market. Like you could just go out of fashion. People could just stop, like,
right.
You make yourself much, much more vulnerable financially than if you can kind of like get into that higher level, but then you make a bit of a trade-off with like how adventurous you can be in your own work and how much you can surprise yourself. And so that is another reason why I advocate for like having a strong community, because like, and like trying to be smart financially as much as you can. Like, that's why I'm like, don't get in crazy amounts of debt. Like, don't, like, if you've got people you can lean on, then like, they can be like, I can talk to this person for you, or I can, like you build a nice network of people that love and trust you and want to see you thrive. And that helps you weather the ups and downs a little bit more. Or you can get like crazy rich, but but it's really hard to get crazy rich. And then once you're crazy rich, it's also hard to keep the work good. So it's like, there's no perfect outcome.
Yeah. There's, you have to make friends with some uncomfortability and some uncertainty.
No matter where you are in that process, it's like, there's no, but I think that's the creative process. Like there's no safe landing pad where everything just churns away without concern. Like that's manufacturing or something, that's making iPhones or, like,
and they're under a lot of pressure over there to make a better iPhone.
I guess
like,
still,
when does it ever get easy? Maybe doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great, find your tribe and stay true to yourself. It sounds like, to put words in your mouth. Yeah. Well, listen, we like to, is there any place, that you'd like to direct anyone? Like if people are interested in seeing your work, where can they see your work? All the permanent collections we talked about earlier.
If you're in Columbus, Ohio, which I know some of your listeners might be. I don't know.
Shout out to mom and dad.
Yeah. Hey, mom. They go all the time.
Thank you for raising two artistic kids and sending us to art school and being so supportive of us. We love you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not our parents, thank you for indulging us and letting us. Listening. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can, I'm on Instagram at, my full name is Robin Francesca Williams, and that is my handle, which is a little clunky, but I made it in like 2013.
Yeah.
When we were just posting our food.
Yeah. The Williams kids we're rocking our full names these days. Yeah.
And, let's see. I'm represented by PPOW. If you visit their website, you can get a good sense of my work. I also make prints with Pace Prints Gallery, and I recently had a show there that closed about a month ago. So you can visit their website and see my prints. And I'm in LA because I am in a group show at David Kordansky Gallery that opens on the 15th.
15th of July.
15th of July.
2025.
Yeah.
In case you're watching this in the year 2030. Yeah.
That should be up for about a month.
Great.
That's it.
And I like to go out with one good thing. One good thing in the world.
Oh my God. I didn't come prepared. I know you do this and I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, the great thing about it is that it's very low stakes. It's low pressure. It's one thing that makes you happy. One thing you're happy that exists in the world. Just like one little tiny nugget of good to, a drop in the bucket of goodness
Okay,
for
well,
the world.
is it weird if I say my nephew, your son?
No,
Okay.
no, he's great.
Yeah, he's the best.
He's the great. I'm so happy you're going to spend some time with him.
Yeah, it's been so. I mean, he just started walking.
Just started walking. It's
Yeah.
very exciting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like here for he'd already taken a couple steps before I got here, but like now he's like fully.
Yeah, you've seen
walking.
the blossoming. Yeah.
Yeah. It's miraculous. It's so crazy.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
It is truly a miracle. It's a very
Yeah.
beautiful thing. Robin F. Williams, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was fantastic. I feel like there was so much we could have talked about that we didn't have time for. So I hope you'll consider coming back again.
I will of course come back. I'm an original. I'm like one of your first fans, I'm sure.
OG fan.
Yeah. I'm
for
here
sure.
from the beginning.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, this was a real pleasure, and thank you for doing it.
Of course. I loved it.
I'd like to begin with a fact.
So deep. So deep.
Or in Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles.
You have to go deeper, I think.